Well, you know what time it is. It's time to talk some winners and losers. In this video, we're going to do losers. We will then get on to winners in a different video. So 7 biggest losers. And I have to say, the day 2 losers are not as big of a deal, I think, as the day 1 losers, because in day 2, I think you have more freedom to kind of take some chances, right? To say, okay, listen, is this the best player available? Maybe not necessarily, but you can take more swings. You can go for more developmental guys, and you can pick for need. And I think that's more okay in rounds 2 and 3 than it is round 1. So some of these losers, I actually like. A couple of these losers, I think they got good players in, so that's kind of where things just get a little bit interesting. So, yeah, without further ado, these 7 losers, and I want to be clear, I'm going to talk about the 7 worst picks in general, as opposed to the 7 teams that got the worst, just because I think that's an easier way to format it. So these are the 7 worst picks, in my opinion. Kind of the one exception is the first one, the Bears' just lack of helping Justin Fields in general. So I didn't pick one specific pick for this one, but again, they got good players. I like what they did to some degree. I think they're helping their team out. So I'm not necessarily mad necessarily at what they did. I think there's some real logic behind what they did. However, I also think it's fair to say, it's like, why have you not helped out Justin Fields? Not through free agency and now not through the draft to some degree. They did get a receiver eventually in the 3rd round, but that was it. So I think they could have, done more to help out Justin Fields. You see how, okay, listen, Jacksonville's not doing a great job helping out Trevor Lawrence. They're at least trying to. The Jets are doing everything they can to help out Zach Wilson, which leads me to my number 2, my second least favorite decision made in this draft class, Breece Hall with the Jets, which, again, I want to be very clear. With him and the next guy on my list, these are players I like. But Breece Hall, basically, this is a team-building philosophy. This is simply just how do we evaluate team building? And for me, personally, I do not think it's a smart decision to go after a running back unless you're the kind of team that feels like you are ready to compete right away. The Jets are not that team. Now, the one reason why I have it a little bit not as big of a deal as the next loser on my list is because, at least with the Jets, the logic is we're helping out a young quarterback. And if that's the case and you're saying, yes, this is probably a move that's not going to help us win necessarily, but in a roundabout way it could, because it'll help develop Zach Wilson, take some pressure off of him, which will allow him to eventually become a better quarterback. And if Zach Wilson's awesome, then we will be able to win a lot of games. So even if it's not Breece Hall himself winning, it's sort of that helping develop Wilson that could be worth a high pick. Because again, it's 36. I know people are going to say, it's not a 1st-round running back, it's a 2nd-round running back. Like, yeah, by a handful of picks. It's, very close to that value. But again, I do kind of, there is at least some logic with this one. The Seahawks is the next one with Kenneth Walker at 41. I don't know, man. I don't know why they did this. They still did not, this is not the move I would have made if I was Seattle, going after Kenneth Walker at pick 41. I think this was, quite frankly, dumb. I think that this was not a smart move. You already have Rashad Penny. Unironically, the Seahawks might have the best running back tandem in football with Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker. Penny was really good last year, so I don't know why you go out and draft Kenneth Walker, a guy who is a good runner of the football. Again, I like the player. It's just he got overdrafted due to his positional value. You are not ready to compete right away. Why are you going out and spending, a bunch of capital on a guy who is not going to, you're not going to be ready right away? I just didn't love that pick. It's a positional value thing. It's not a player thing. That's how I view it. So that's number 3. Number 4, so we got a couple of wide receivers. First, the Giants at pick 43 drafted Wan'Dale Robinson. This wasn't this is kind of a weird one, I guess is what I'll say. Full disclosure, I haven't evaluated Robinson that much. Most of these picks I wanted to make are, these are all 2nd rounders, because 3rd rounder, it's largely a crapshoot. Take whoever you like. A 2nd rounder, though, you can still get good value at pick 43. You already have a slot guy in Sterling Shepard, so why are you going after a guy who, from what I've read about him, appears to be mostly a slot guy? He could be pretty good. One thing I've heard is maybe this is the Kadarius Toney replacement, but he is not the prospect that Toney was. And, a lot of people, the consensus had him as a mid-90s pick. He goes at 43, so that's a reach. Again, wide receiver is a very difficult position to evaluate, so I'm not going to crush them necessarily because of it, because again, wide receiver, it's tough to evaluate. If you like the guy and you think he's the best receiver available, okay, fine. But it's a loser for me. Again, not a ton of losers here, so that's part of it. These are the 7 worst picks out of a draft. I thought there wasn't a ton of horrible picks in my opinion. Tyquan Thornton here is going to be my pick for the Patriots, 50th overall, who was projected to be a 4th or 5th round pick. Ends up getting selected 50th overall, and right before a run of really good receivers. So that's kind of the thing about Robinson and Thornton. It's like you could have had like Alec Pierce, you could have had Sky Moore. There were better options, at least according to the consensus. Although again, one thing I keep bringing up is who the hell knows of this stuff. Receivers are difficult to evaluate. So because of that, I'm a little bit more lenient on these 2 picks, but felt like a reach for me at the time, so I'm putting it on the list. The next 2, again, are moves that I don't even necessarily hate necessarily. I said necessarily twice there, did not have to do that, but they're not necessarily, why am I saying necessarily all the time? they're not exactly the worst moves, but they're moves that I would consider maybe not getting the most out of your expected value. The Cardinals getting Trey McBride. I love McBride. He was my tight end 1. This is great value for a tight end. You are getting best player available, but you didn't need a tight end. You have 2 good tight ends. So how is he going to get on the field? That's my only question. But again, it is a little bit nitpicky because you got a good player, and Zach Ertz isn't going to play forever. He can, fill in, but I still feel like there were some good defensive linemen available here. Kind of a weird draft in general from the Cardinals' perspective. But again, I do like McBride, so that's kind of why it's weird to criticize them. Finally, the Bills drafting James Cook. You might notice a trend here. Don't love drafting running backs, and I didn't love this running back class as much as other people did in general, so that's part of why I'm a little bit lower on it. I get the logic behind it. You're getting someone who is going to be someone who will contribute. He will contribute day 1, and he will contribute year 1, whereas some of these other guys maybe wouldn't have. So that's the logic behind it, and I don't even hate it necessarily. I get it. It's just like, I feel like you probably could have done something better, but what was that better? I don't know. But if this is the best you could do, then why not trade up and, use that? If no one else you're going to get is going to help you out in any way, well, then trade up or trade for a future pick or something like that. There's things you could have done, I would say, other than get James Cook. But I'm also lower on James Cook than other people. Some people really like James Cook. So that's kind of that's the discussion. So these are my 7 losers. Again, not as fun. Not as many big losses this day as there was yesterday. Yesterday, I had to whittle it down from 7. This time, I was like, who else? I guess I'll throw Trey McBride in. I guess I'll throw James Cook in because there wasn't as much. So, yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.